4 on 20. We cover all the top stories that are meant to divide, separate, spread gloom and despair, and instill fear in you to make you submissive and easier to control. With news from around the world, delivered straight to your face. We tell you all the bullshit with scripts passed down from the elites and read from our mouths. With Dick Rammer, Jennifer Phibb, and Lester Gayford with sports. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dick Rammer.
I'm Jennifer Phibb, and welcome to this Trues News Special Super Separation Tuesday edition. We'll highlight some stories showing how this political game is just that, a game, and how politicians past and present are full of lies and empty promises. Dick?
According to a recent survey from NORC at the University of Chicago, approximately 50 million, or 20%, of American adults reported donating to a crowdfunding campaign to help raise money for a medical bill or treatment. The survey also found that an estimated 8 million Americans had started a campaign for themselves or someone in their household, and more than 12 million Americans had started a campaign for someone else. And if you ask a capitalist who steals their money from the labor of those same Americans, or someone who is fortunate enough to have a good-paying job with full medical coverage, they will tell you those more than 20 million Americans are just lazy. Quote, as annual out-of-pocket costs continue to rise, more Americans are struggling to pay their medical bills, and millions are turning to those social networks and crowdfunding sites to fund medical treatments and pay medical bills, said Molly Hurdle, senior research scientist at NORC. Although more people gained insurance coverage with the Affordable Care Act, aka extra tax, crowdfunding for healthcare expenses is becoming more common because Americans still cannot afford their out-of-pocket costs, deductibles, co-pays, or co-insurance, in spite of their coverage. This is because of how the government and corporations work. If they give you 5 cents, they will find a way to take 10 cents back, either by a hike in fees, taxes, deductibles, or co-pays. Medical bills remain the number one reason Americans file for personal bankruptcy, according to a 2019 City University of New York Harvard study. The problem must be we don't have the right millionaire as CEO in the White House. Or maybe people are just lazy. Or everyone should just get a better job. I mean, it has to be the people's fault somehow. It couldn't possibly be the rigged and corrupt system we live by. When asked who is responsible for paying for care for those who cannot afford it, a majority of Americans, 60%, believe the government should as opposed to healthcare providers, charities, and family friends, and therein lies a problem. According to this survey, at least 60% of Americans believe the government gives a fuck about them. To highlight some disparity between government and the citizens they supposedly work for, since 1992, lawmakers, House, Senate, and members of Congress, base salary has gone up an average of about $4,000 a year, starting at $129,500 in 1992 and is currently at $174,000 a year. So how much does your salary increase every year? Just kidding. That was a rhetorical question. We know it's only pennies, if any. Quote, it is clear that Americans want government and providers to work together to provide charity or assistance when needed, said Susan Can, senior research scientist at NORC. Ah, yes, there we go again, making the common hard-working folk, the ones who are actually doing the fucking work for society, sound like charity cases who are begging for assistance. Quote, it comes down to a profit-making motive that is baked into a system that puts profits over patients, said Representative Pramila Jayapal from Washington. Actually, the entire profit-based monetary system the whole world lives by puts profits over everything. Patients, people, pollution, nations, environment, everything. So are any of these politicians going to be able to change that or even proposing to? Of course not. Even the one that appears most for the people, Bernie Sanders, isn't addressing the system itself that enables around 20 individuals to own more wealth than over half of the entire world's population. Essentially, he is saying that it's okay as long as they pay a little bit more tax. I don't know about you, but I smell some bullshit. Jennifer?
The Federal Election Commission filings show Mike Bloomberg's campaign spent $220 million in ad buys in January alone. The campaign has spent over $500 million total, according to Bloomberg News, which Bloomberg is the majority owner of. Think about that, people. This is over $500 million spent on nothing but absolute bullshit rhetoric, propaganda, attacks, and distractions. And even the so-called independent and for-the-people news outlets may tell you that fact, but then won't continue on to point out that it's the capitalist, profit-based, monetary system we live by that allows and encourages such behavior. And until people realize that, and we start taking a systems-wide approach, such things will never, ever change. Most people would say, well, it's his money, he can do what he wants with it. But clearly such individuals are reckless, non-compassionate, greedy, and irresponsible to spend that amount of money in such a way. And does anybody think for a second that someone would spend close to $1 billion because they want to become president so bad so they can help people? I'll pause while you finish laughing. In the same way the majority of humans on the planet are forced by an authority to do something all the time they don't want to do, why would we not force people so reckless and irresponsible with such vast amounts of money to use it for the betterment of society and the same citizens they are supposedly wanting to help in the first place? I'll pause while you finish laughing again. And what would someone who is deep in the politics business say about that kind of unwarranted, reckless spending of close to $1 billion? Well, according to Joe Lockhart, a longtime Democratic strategist and former press secretary to former President Bill Clinton, in an opinion piece for CNN, he called on Bloomberg to take out the frontrunner Bernie Sanders. Quote, Bloomberg needs to use the next $400 million in ad spending to attack Sanders, said Lockhart. That's literally what this person, who's a longtime Democratic strategist and deep in politics, said, that a person who is running for president, a position that supposedly entails them working for the best interests of the American people, that the next $400 million they spend on fucking ads should be spent to, quote, attack Sanders. Are you starting to get it, people? Is it becoming more clear to you that these millionaire and billionaire politicians think it's totally acceptable and routine to spend that kind of money on literally nothing more than a smear campaign? And you think any of these pricks give a shit about you? Or would hesitate to recklessly and irresponsibly spend taxpayer money? Quote, this will be a good test of the durability of Bernie's strength in polls against Trump, tweeted Eric Levitz, New York Magazine writer. Quote, if Bloomberg's wall-to-wall character assassination campaign doesn't erase Bernie's advantage in those polls, no reason to think he can't hold strong in the general election, said Levitz. See how calmly and matter-of-factly a political writer speaks about a, quote, wall-to-wall character assassination campaign, as though it's totally normal? This is why and how people have become numb to the absurdity of society. This is partly by design, partly because people who have a platform to get their voice out are either a tool, blind to the facts, or a sheep themselves, and partly because the general public listens to this BS and doesn't question everything. Come on, people, it's time to start waking up now. I think everyone's played dumb and stayed asleep long enough.
Breaking news.
This postscript just in from the elites, and this one is directed to us in the newsroom. Listen up, everyone. They are giving us a stern warning. Quote, way too much truth in this episode. 2 problems with that. 1, we'll lose listeners because people don't want to hear the truth. And 2, for those who are curious enough to listen, the truth may begin to sink in and register. We don't want either of those scenarios, So get back to distracting and separating people or you're fired. Well, our owners have spoken, so we will get back to dividing people. And what better day to do it than on Super Separation Tuesday? We'll take a short commercial break, and when we return, we'll speak with Harry Hopper, who's at a polling place, to get some gullible voters' feedback.
Have you ever wondered why I sound just like my deputy? Does he seem like he's redundant? Or do I? Oh, baby, when you step into the booth, look down and face the truth. A vote for me is the same as a vote for any of us guys. It's sweeter when we all agree. A party political harmony. Lose your voting inhibitions. Join the one true coalition. He'll fire all your docs and nurses. He'll clamp down on public service. He sold the railways to companies, and we all agree on tuition fees. Let's sell off the parts of this broken nation. Let's shut the door on immigration. And if a few companies don't pay tax, let's not grumble. What's the harm in that? There's no harm, baby. Austerity, 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 austerity. Let's get rid of foreigners. What he means is, let's wreck this green and pleasant land. Come on, Eddie, join the band. Come on, Eddie. Public won't know what to do if they have to pick from me and you. The choice between us couldn't be clearer. Oxford, Cambridge, diversity for you. Whether it's Trident or high speed too, the lesser of four evils is up to you. I love the coalition. Sweeter when we all agree. A party political harmony. Make the tactical decision. Join the one true coalition. Sweeter when we all agree. A party political harmony. Make the tactical decision. Join the one true coalition.
Welcome back to News 4 on 20. We have Harry Hopper at a polling place to speak with some hoodwinked, naive, and divided voters. Harry, what have you seen there so far?
Thanks, Dick. Well, so far, I've seen a lot of people who believe this time it will be different. I'll pause while you finish laughing. While they may have good intent in their heart, their mind clearly doesn't fully comprehend the money and trade system the world and politicians adhere to, because if they did, they would know that one politician, and in turn their vote, is powerless to change it. And think about it. What does a politician do? What do they know? They're not a scientist or engineer. They're not an agronomist or biologist. Nope, a politician is a businessman or woman, a con artist, and a lawmaker. A business person takes advantage of us, a con artist lies to us, and a lawmaker controls and oppresses us. So earlier, I asked some naive people which of these three evils they considered the lesser and that they were voting for. Hello all, and welcome to this Trues News special Super Separation Tuesday coverage. A day when the millionaires and billionaires running for CEO of the country see which states believe their lies the most. And a day when the establishment finds out how many suckers are still buying into this fake, corrupt, and rigged system. I asked some of these suckers who they were pretend voting for and why. Excuse me, sir, can I ask who you voted for and why?
I voted for Steyer because he kind of looks like he used to be a surfer.
So you voted for someone just based on their looks?
Yeah, bruh. Why else would I vote for someone? I don't follow politics.
Then why vote at all, then?
Someone said it was my civic duty, whatever that means. So I'm just trying to be a participating citizen, you know?
No. But thank you anyway. Excuse me, ma'am. May I ask who you voted for and why?
I voted for Warren because she's a female.
So what do you like about her policies?
I'm not too sure about her policies, but I do know she's a female. Perhaps a lesbian, but she's still a female, and that's good enough for me.
So you voted for her strictly because of her gender?
Yes, it's about time we have a woman president.
Okay. But don't you think it'd be a good idea to know what she says she'll do if elected, what she'll never actually do?
I'm sorry, but your male presence is beginning to bother me.
Okay, sorry for being male, ma'am. Excuse me, sir, may I ask you who you voted for and why?
I was gonna vote for Peter Paul Montgomery Buttigieg.
Who the hell is that?
It's Petey Buttigieg. And I was gonna vote for him before he dropped out, 'cause he's gay like me. Rainbow pride, baby. And I'd much rather see that little cute face and tight buns on TV all day instead of one of those old bag of bones.
So you're voting for him because he's gay and you think he's cute?
Yes, that and because he's got butt in his name, and I love some butt. The hairier, the better.
Well, that thought curbed my appetite for a while. Thank you, sir. Or ma'am, whichever you prefer. Excuse me, sir. May I ask you who you're voting for and why?
Trump, all day, buddy.
So you think he's done a good job as president?
Sure. And he's mighty white, too.
And why else are you voting for him?
'Cause he's really white. And I like him 'cause he speaks his mind. Yeah, he might be a racist, chauvinist, and a bigot. But deep down, I am too. So I kind of like the cracker, you know?
Don't you think those kinds of character traits are what we shouldn't want in someone supposed to be a leader? And how about building a highly unnecessary wall to divide and separate us, preventing desperate and frightened people from escaping the tyranny that the U.S. mainly created, not to mention the $15 to $20 billion price tag and waste of all the labor and resources to complete it? You don't see all that as evil and fascist?
Trump, 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 maggot, maggot. I mean, maggot, maggot, maggot.
Okay. Thank you, I think. Excuse me, ma'am. Can I ask who you voted for and why?
The Burnster, of course. Bernie Sanders. Who else? And I voted for him because he's fighting for the people, not the corporations. He has been his entire political career. I agree with his Medicare for all, college for all, housing for all. Pretty much all of his policies I agree with.
Wow. You were the first person I spoke with today that seems to have researched and understood the person they're voting for. So do you think he understands the money game? That all banks create money from nothing, lend that fiction as debt? That debt then enslaves the person or country into servitude to that financial institution, and if they don't pay back all the debt that was created from nothing, the bank will then take their real property and possessions? And if he does understand it, why do you think he wouldn't mention it or even hint to it?
What are you talking about? Money comes from the Treasury, and we get it when we work or sell something, and banks get their money when people deposit money into the bank.
Wrong, wrong, and wrong. Considering fiat currency and trade is the game the world lives by, which creates, enables, or underlines virtually every problem in the world, don't you think it's imperative that Bernie, as well as yourself, understand the root problem?
Yeah, but Bernie's going to save us. We just have to put our faith in him instead of ourselves. I mean, yeah, politics is a sham, and government is owned and controlled by the central banks and large multinational corporations. But I'm still voting Bernie, and that's my final answer.
All right, ma'am. Thank you very much. Excuse me, sir. May I ask who you voted for and why?
I am not voting. What do I look like, a fucking idiot? I am being nice enough to deliver the hot dogs and greasy-ass pizza from the Quickie Mart.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I apologize.
But letting me saying this, no chili and cheese on the combos. Chili and cheese for hot dog and nachos. No combo.
Okay, I'll try to remember that.
And one lasting thing. West Side.
What the fuck? Well, that's it from this polling place. The consensus seems to be that most people don't know shit about who they're voting for, which probably stems from the underlying realization that voting for a new CEO will never change the system that is the problem itself. So I'm going to go get shit-faced, maybe call a hooker, 'cause hell, we're all prostitutes anyway, and try and numb myself and forget for a little while the reckless, barbaric, and insane way we act, think, and function on this planet Earth.
Well, have fun, Harry. Take a hit for me. And that'll do it for our coverage of this Super Separation Tuesday. I fear we may have spoken too much truth on this episode, so our owners may pull us off the air for a little while. It's been great to present to all of you the Trues News, with more robust coverage of major stories, real extra facts, and comedy sprinkled with truth to make you laugh, and remind you that it's just a ride. It feels real because that's how powerful our minds are. The ride goes up and down, and round and round. It has thrills and chills and is very brightly colored. It's very loud and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride a while and begin to question, is this real or is this just a ride? Other people have remembered and they come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid ever because it's just a ride. And we kill those people. We always kill the good guys who try to tell us that, but let the demons run amok. Do you notice that? But it's just a ride, and we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice between fear and love. The eyes of fear want you to put bigger locks on your door, buy guns, and close yourself off. The eyes of love instead see all of us as one. Thank you all for listening. We hope our owners will enable us to return in the future for your listening pleasure. Until next time, I'm Dick Rammer.
And I'm Jennifer Phibb.
Good night, everyone.